This town hosts a gigantic party outside where 2 teams of 4 or 6 men each play a game that's a very traditional game called Ruzzolone, where they take a wheel of cheese, a 10-kilo wheel of cheese, and with a special cord, and it's sort of like discus. They roll this cheese through the town to see which team gets it to the end of the square first. And then in the town square, there's a big party where there are wonderful pizza di Pasqua, which is a kind of, not a pizza, but a bread, a round bread, a cheese bread with cheese served as sandwiches to everyone who's gone to the town. And then there's a gigantic chocolate egg in the town square that they open up, use a hammer and crack it, and everybody grabs pieces of the chocolate egg. Really fun. Christmas in Italy is a delight. So many things and so many sweets. Struffole, little fried dough balls covered in honey, dates to ancient Roman times. Cartellate. Cartellate is this little strip of pasta that you then pinch and roll to make a kind of rosette that's then fried, and you serve it either with honey or with a reduced wine, a wonderful mosto. Panettone is probably the most famous Italian cake for Christmas time. Panettone is tall, yeasty, eggy, raisins, dried candied fruit. There's very strict rules about where the ingredients can come from and what percentages of each ingredient have to be in panettone. And what I found so interesting when I was writing Dolci, I went to visit several panettone makers, and I was amazed from the small artisan shops that made only a couple of hundred to big companies. The one thing that even the very, very big companies, this is a mother yeast. It's made from a natural yeast that has to be tended. They have like a little yeast nursery. Even big companies where it's kept in a basket, and an employee is assigned maybe 20 of these babies where they have to turn them and nurture them for the 30 or 40 days it takes until they develop into the yeast. And this natural yeast is what makes panettone so special in the flavor. But also when you look at the ingredient list, there are no preservatives. And I couldn't believe this, so I did a test myself. I kept 10 panettone from 10 different makers in my closet because they all assured me that even in June, 9 months later, they promised me the panettone would be fresh. And first of all, my closet smelled fantastic. I could have rented out my apartment. Just from the smell, it's a realtor's delight. But it was true. Every single one maintained its softness because of that natural yeast and no preservatives. And the pairing for panettone, the traditional, is asti spumante, a little glass of asti spumante. But there's another panettone that we have the sweet one, but then there's a panettone salato, a savory panettone. Has anybody ever had panettone salato per una festa? In several of my Italian friends, I kind of give them a job when I come. You must find for me something that I don't know here in America. And so I really have this bevy of hundreds of Italian friends that are always searching for the interesting and unusual. And this is one that they do in several regions where you make the panettone. They also sell it commercially during the holidays. And this panettone is not sweet. It's like a brioche bread, but in the panettone shape. And because of that pretty dome-like shape, you slice it horizontally and you do different layers of savory sandwich fillings. Then you cut them into little triangles. And so guests eat these little sandwiches. It's such a festive way. I have a recipe to make it at home, and I have alternates for the panettone mold too, if you want to try it. The other Christmas cake is pandoro. Golden cake, because it's very brioche, like panettone, but without the candied fruit inside. And one of the fun things about its shape is that it lends itself so nicely to cutting it horizontally and creating this kind of Christmas tree sort of shape. which I love. And you can put in between the layers another classic Italian creation, zabaione. And in Italy, when I went to I Dodici Apostoli, a wonderful restaurant to learn how to make some recipes, because it's from that area, they showed me how to make zabaione, which is such an easy recipe. Egg and sugar in equal amounts, and marsala, which you use the shell of the egg. So if you use 3 eggs, you use 3 cups of the 3 egg shells of the marsala, and then just heat it until it's wonderful and delicious. Now, the Italians have many, many sayings about staying at the table. That you don't know someone unless you have dinner with them. That staying at the table, you don't age. A tavola non si invecchia, which I totally believe. It's my little time machine. And in Italy, they linger over their food. And therefore appreciate it, I think, more and eat less. And each course, there's a flavor, there's a wine, there's conversation, and there is a very interesting phenomenon. If you go to an Italian restaurant and you order dessert, you've had a wonderful meal, you've had your wines, now you order dessert, and you order a cup of coffee, the way we do with our dessert here in America. In Italy, you're going to wait for the coffee, and you're going to wait. And you call the waiter and you say, "Excuse me, coffee," and he say, ma signora, non hai finito il dolce. But you haven't finished your dessert. Because in Italy, you don't serve coffee with dessert. Dessert is served with dessert wines, and coffee is the very last thing. It would feel rude to serve you the coffee. It's almost a sign of the end, and so they want to postpone that. Now, I thought that I would talk a little bit about coffee for the end of our talk, before I take questions, because coffee is taken very seriously in Italy, and coffee was introduced into Europe through Italy.